This past week, another life was snatched from the shackles of prison. A man who served 17 years for murder was released after new evidence surfaced that he was wrongfully convicted. 53-year-old Roger Logan was found guilty of a 1997 shooting and sentenced to a term of 25 years to life. A judge set him free after a reviewing of his conviction weakened the credibility of a purported witness. Now, this is the 7th time this year a defendant has been cleared in an exhaustive re-examination of old homicide cases in Brooklyn. DA Ken Thompson has ordered the review of 90 cases from the 80s and 90s, most of them stemming from concerns about the investigative tactics of now retired police detective, that is, Louis Scarcella. We invited Roger Logan to join us here, but we're told he's not quite ready to speak publicly. We are pleased to have with us Jeffrey Deskovic, an advocate for reform of the judicial criminal system. He's a man who certainly understands what it's like to be locked up for a crime he didn't commit. He was wrongfully committed and convicted in 1990 at the age of 17 of raping, beating, and strangling a 15-year-old classmate in Peekskill. He spent 16 years in prison before a DNA test proved he was innocent. He's now heading the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation, which is committed to the prevention and eradication of wrongful convictions. So good to see you here. You're smiling, you look fresh and clean, and we had you on our program a number of years ago, and you've been now free how many years? 7 years. And how are things going for you?
Much better now. I mean, I graduated this past May with a master's degree in John Jay with a thesis written on the causes and reforms needed to prevent wrongful convictions. My head is much clearer mentally through a lot of work with mental health professionals and enjoying a lot of the small things, Marvin, from fresh air to freedom of movement, sampling new foods. I feel good. I'm so happy to be back.
And you look terrific.
Thank you.
Let me ask you about this. Another wrongful conviction overturned. Is this just the tip of the iceberg?
Absolutely. There's many people whose cases, the stat you just read, were waiting for their cases to be looked at in Brooklyn. Both cases involving Detective Louis Scarcella as well as those not involving Detective Scarcella. And remember, that's just Brooklyn. I think that there's 15 to 20% of people are wrongfully convicted across the country.
How can this happen in this day and age?
Because the systemic deficiencies that have led to wrongful convictions in the 80s and 90s, coerced false confessions, misidentification, witnesses getting rewards in exchange for testimony, prosecutorial misconduct, all these causes have not been yet addressed by the state or federal legislatures. And so it's just as easy now to be wrongfully convicted as it was back then.
Now, the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation, what are you doing? I know you're a strong advocate for judicial reform.
Yes. Well, we seek to prevent wrongful convictions through raising awareness, seeking legislative changes. We work to free people who have already been wrongfully convicted, not simply the DNA cases, but also non-DNA, and we help them to reintegrate back into society once they're cleared and released.
And how do you do this? How do you approach which case? There are so many cases out there. I read a figure that in the past, 2 decades, 1,314 cases, people who wrongfully convicted have been set free by DNA or coerced witnesses in the past.
I'm sorry, I lost.
What is it you do? What case do you decide to take on? Everyone who's incarcerated says they're innocent. How do you decide which cases to take?
We have a screening process, so the legal staff at my foundation, we determine who has a plausible claim of innocence based on something objective, and we also have to have a direction to go in which could theoretically lead us to prove their innocence.
Now, you put your own money into your foundation. Why is that?
Because I couldn't forget about the people who I metaphorically left behind, who were wrongfully convicted, and my knowledge that most organizations will turn away a case if it doesn't have DNA, and yet it's only in 5 to 12% of all cases.
Now, many of these people, these witnesses, come forward because they're out to save their own skin. They have some reason they get off of a criminal charge or they're rewarded. Tell me more about that, what you have found.
Sure. What I found is many witnesses, they're in a vulnerable position to be coerced because they're involved in crime themselves. So either they're going to get a break on a case they've been arrested for, or the cops know of crimes they've committed and they don't charge them in exchange for their cooperation, while at other times they receive other benefits such as a funding financial inducement.
Now, I once had a source, he identified himself as a mob figure, and he claimed that certain mob figures were getting benefits. They were being given meals and put up in hotels and provided with prostitutes, and they, of course, would turn evidence against other mob figures. So this is something that still continues. That was back in the 70s, but it's still going on today.
It is. Incentivized witnessing, which is when witnesses get a benefit in exchange for testimony. That's been the cause of wrongful convictions in 15% of the 331 DNA-proven wrongful convictions to this date.
Now, here we have a case. We have one cop, former detective, Louis Scarcella. Many of these cases that are being reviewed now have been linked to investigations he conducted. Bad cop?
Absolutely. He should go to prison for what he did.
How can this happen? How can a police officer, a detective, a respected member of law enforcement go forward and have cases like this? No one has formally charged him with anything, but there are many questions being asked about him. And let's go ahead.
It's public pressure, desire to move up, a pressure on the police just to solve cases. Remember, too, the district attorney's office under former Brooklyn district attorney Charles Hines, they were playing ball with him. They knew he was using the same witness in the 6 different cases. The complaint room saw the same witness. They were also withholding exculpatory evidence that could prove someone as innocent in many of those cases. So they're equally culpable, as I see it.
Now, with the modern techniques today for investigation and DNA, there are still wrongful convictions and juries are being convinced to convict? How?
Because the same reasons that lead to wrongful convictions that we've talked about have not been addressed legislatively. That's why it's critical that they be addressed. I remember, I think it was a year or perhaps 2 ago, when Governor Cuomo, in his State of the State address, he recognized false confessions and misidentification as causes of wrongful conviction that need to be addressed legislatively. Where's the legislation? It's not there.
D.A. Thompson has formed a special unit to reinvestigate all of these cases, but not many district attorneys are doing this. Is that part of the program that you're calling for the reform?
It absolutely is. District Attorney Ken Thompson, he's a model for district attorneys in New York and throughout the country.
Now, talk a little bit about your case. I mean, you spent 17 years in prison for rape and strangulation, and it took 17 years to gain your freedom. Just try in a few moments to explain what that process was like, mentally, physically.
Yeah, it was a lot of highs and lows. I mean, you file an appeal and you're confident that justice is going to happen, and so you build up your hopes and you pray, and that leads to hope. And then when you lose the appeal, I mean, the crash back down to earth is fast and loud. And yet you have to pick yourself back up again and focus on the next proceeding. I lost 7 appeals, and I was turned down for parole before ultimately being cleared after 16 years through further testing, which identified the actual perpetrator. Marvin, I had to fight off thoughts of suicide, depression, hopelessness, helplessness, and giving up. I fought a mental battle as much as it was external against the district attorney's office.
16 years incarcerated, 7 years of freedom, you've got your life back, and you're now fighting for others through the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation. How can people help you? How can they get more information about you?
They can get more information by going to our website, www.deskovic.org. They can help me through, I'm looking to build my board of directors, and I need to build a donor base to make the foundation sustainable. My goal is for it to survive me.
Now, as a result of this program, you may be getting many calls from people who say, hey, they want help. Mm-hmm. You're willing to help them out there?
Absolutely. We will screen the cases, and those instances where we can be of service, we definitely will be.
Jeffrey Deskovic, it's good to see you again and see you smiling. And
thank you for having me so much. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Marvin. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, and good luck to you in your further pursuits.
Thank you very much.